Edo State Governor, Monday Okpebholo has said the state government will set up special court for criminal proceedings in line with the existing laws for suspected secret cult members and kidnappers to be conducted within 2 or 3 weeks maximum, and if anyone is found guilty and sentenced to death accordingly, he will sign the death warrant and bring the condemned criminal or criminals to popular Ring Road area in Benin City for public execution so that such action will serve as deterrent to others. The governor, who probably have a good working relationship with one of the former governors of the state that started the recent execution of condemned criminals, Adams Oshiomhole, made this known on Thursday when he visited the headquarters of the Edo State Command of the Nigeria Police Force, wherein some suspected kidnappers allegedly behind the shooting and abduction of a woman at a popular vegetable market along Airport Road in Benin City last Sunday were paraded before the governor and the press. According to the governor, "I will set up a special court to try cultists and kidnappers within 2 or 3 weeks, and if found guilty, I would have no regret to sign their warrants. They would be executed at the Ring Road for others to learn a lesson. Don't take my simplicity for granted." For the record, the last time death warrant was signed and condemned criminals executed in Edo State took place around 6 a.m. on December 23, 2016, few weeks after the then governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, took over power and was then still in good working relationship with ex-governor Adams Oshiomhole. 3 death row inmates were executed by hanging, namely, Ogbomoro Omoregie, Apostle Ijin, and Mark Omosohota, and the execution took place at the Oko prison of the Nigerian Correctional Service. The inmates had originally been sentenced to death by military tribunals under the robbery and firearms decree during the era of military rule in Nigeria. Godwin Obaseki carried out the executions despite condemnation from human rights groups, such as the Legal Defense and Assistance Project, LEDAP, who thus petitioned the governor for a stay of execution, saying, "These earmarked prisoners were sentenced by military tribunals under the Robbery and Firearms Special Provisions Decree 1971 as amended, in which there was no right of appeal. We have filed an appeal pending at the Court of Lagos seeking order that these prisoners have right of appeal under the 1999 Constitution. Death penalty is not universally prohibited, but the second optional protocol to the United Nations International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights on prohibition of the use of the death penalty asks state parties to amend their laws to abolish death as sentence for crime. Not all states have ratified the protocol. To sign a treaty does not bind the state until it is ratified. Nigeria has not signed it. It would be recalled that before the 2016 last execution of condemned criminals in the state, the immediate past and first execution in Edo State since Nigeria returned to democratic rule in 1999 occurred on June 24, 2013, when former Governor Adams Oshiomhole signed the warrants to hang 4 inmates, Chima Ejiofor, Daniel Nsofa, Osarenwinda Eguokan, and Richard Agagu, at the Benin City custody. It was a double victory for the Nigerian North American diaspora community last week as the Ugolor and Omoregie families celebrated 2 standout scholars, Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugolor at York University and Miss Ivie Marianne Omoregie, who studied at Brock University, graduating with first-class honors from the top Canadian universities, as the milestone achievements were anchored by a massive cross-border comrades reunion party that drew family, professionals, and community leaders from across Canada and the United States. The academic festivities officially commenced on June 12, 2026, at the York University graduation ceremonies in Toronto, where Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugolor achieved a monumental milestone by graduating with first-class honors in computer science. Miss Ajiroghene Miracle Ugolor, daughter of prominent human rights activist, Reverend David Ugolor, and diaspora figure, Mrs. Ngozi Ugolor, clinched first-class honors in computer science. Her feat was celebrated by attendees as a masterclass in determination, intellectual grit, and a shining example for women in STEM fields. Mrs. Ngozi Ugolor said her daughter, Ajiroghene's outstanding degree is the culmination of years of intense dedication, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Friends and family at the reunion party described the scholar as exceptionally resilient, focused, and intellectually driven, saying, she distinguished herself in one of the most competitive fields on campus. Adding, as she transitions into the professional space, she is poised to make significant waves in technology, innovation, and global digital transformation. Sharing the academic spotlight was Miss Ivie Marianne Omoregie, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Steve Omoregie, who graduated with first-class honors in nursing from Brock University. In recognition of her stellar character, academic record, and community impact, Omoregie was also awarded the prestigious Spirit of Brock Medal, a high-level distinction celebrating her campus leadership and commitment to service. The double milestone brought together notable diaspora figures and community pillars, including civil society leader Comrade David Ugolor, Jude Mofunai and his wife, Edna, engineer Richard Amode and his wife, Barbara, surveyor Efik, and Afosa Akanjide Kiyode Iasere. Following the formal university ceremonies, the Omoregie family hosted a grand reception in Toronto featuring vibrant music, exceptional hospitality, and intercessory prayers led by engineer Amode. The event transformed into a true reunion of comrades, as guests traveled across several Canadian provinces and US borders to stand in solidarity with the families. We give ultimate praise, honor, and glory to God Almighty for His abundant grace, guidance, and favor throughout this academic journey, the families said in a joint statement. These achievements serve as shining examples of what focus and discipline can accomplish. We are immensely proud as our daughters step into their respective professional careers. According to the renowned global human rights activist, Reverend David Ugolor, the atmosphere on the campus was vibrant and inspiring as proud parents, family members, and friends. Barely 48 hours after a serving police officer on May 25, 2026 at Uelu area of Agida quarters in Benin City tear gas a resident to death, Matthew Akubo, a tricycle rider who is also said to be an ex-police officer of an elderly age. A more devastating tragedy was apparently averted on May 27, 2026 at the Samuel Ogbomodia Stadium during the 2026 Children's Day celebration when some security operatives used pepper spray on school children who came for the celebration, an action capable of causing death, but the chief medical director, Edo Specialist Hospital, Dr. Antonia Njoku denied and dismissed the claims that about 5 children died as a result of the incident, and the Edo command of the Nigeria police force in a press statement failed to state if there was any death casualty or not, but stated that 4 persons including the seller of the pepper spray chemical substance have been arrested and detained in connection with the Children's Day incident, adding that the policeman who caused the death of the tricycle rider has been in detention waiting to be arraigned for possible act of murder. Our research study shows that a less lethal weapon of chemical substances like tear gas and pepper spray may be seen as an act of deliberate murder or attempted murder if used on a closed range, enclosed environment like hall, big or small, because the chemical substances from our assessment are meant only to be used on a long-range open-air outdoor spaces where people have alternatives means to run and leave the contaminated areas, and in line with global standard on the use of the chemical substances. Tear gas is never meant to be used on vulnerable populations or individuals with medical conditions, as international bodies like the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, and health organizations warn it can cause permanent injury, severe complications, or death. In addition, the chemical causes instant airway constriction that can trigger fatal respiratory failure in people with asthma or COPD, a severe risk that prompted the American Thoracic Society, ATS, to call for a total moratorium on its use, because, simultaneously, the intense physical stress can induce cardiac arrest in those with heart disease, as documented by Physicians for Human Rights, PHR, and according to strict deployment standards from Amnesty International, infants and young children face significantly higher risks because their developing lungs breathe faster, and heavy gas vapors settle near the ground. Pregnant individuals face severe risks of premature labor or miscarriage, a danger highlighted in field reports by National Nurses United and reproductive toxicology data published by the National Institutes of Health, NIH, Also, the elderly suffer prolonged tissue damage due to a reduced physical ability to flee. And finally, the American Lung Association warns that people with eye conditions, especially contact lens wearers, can suffer chemical burns and permanent vision loss from trap toxins, though legally, while the Chemical Weapons Convention, CWC permits domestic law enforcement usage, the UN guidance on less lethal weapons explicitly dictates that police operations must give special consideration. Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Umar Zulum may have given a clearer picture and addressed some fundamental issues in the press release issued by the Nigerian Army on Saturday that caused mixed reactions among members of the public, especially Borno youths under the umbrella body of Borno South Youth Alliance. Bossia, who had condemned the military for saying in the press release that its men rescued 360 out of the 416 women and children held hostage by the Boko Haram terrorists based on intelligence-driven efforts that made the terrorists to flee and abandoned their victims upon citing the superior power of the men of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, AFN, with some of the terrorists arrested, but the state governor, Babagana Zulum, while speaking during his assessment visit to Pulka community on Monday, said 434 victims out of the total numbers of people kidnapped early this year in Ngosh community by the Boko Haram terrorists have regained freedom, specifically stating that 357 captives walked free in the latest coordinated effort. Other captives have been released in phases over the preceding months, bringing the total number of freed captives to 434. We had reported that youths in Borno State under the umbrella body of Borno South Youth Alliance, Bossia has insisted that the federal government of Nigeria under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did nothing to secure the release of the 416 women and children held hostage by Boko Haram terrorists for more than 90 days. They were taken into the bush since March 2026. Also, the youth group dismissed and rejected the report of the Nigerian army, who had alleged that its men rescued 360 out of the 416 people held hostage through intelligence-driven efforts, saying they have an audio record of the conversation they had with the Boko Haram terrorists on Friday, June 5, 2026, before the Boko Haram terrorists decided to release the captives willingly, adding, if they paid ransom, they should come out and tell Nigerians, which we have the full details if ransoms was paid or not, as Senator Ali Ndume automatically started thanking President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Is there something Nigerians need to know that is hidden? It may be recalled that we have reported that barely a day after President Donald Trump of the United States of America, the USA announced the killing of Abu Bilal al-Minuki, the second in command of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, in a joint operation with Nigeria soldiers in Borno State. A new video of the abducted 416 women and children in Boko Haram captivity has been released, in addition to a gory video earlier released by the terrorists wherein they beheaded almost 6 men who the insurgents said tried to escape among the kidnapped victims. This had led to public outcry and demonstrations. But according to Punch newspaper, protesters are reportedly denied the rights to protest in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, saying the army reportedly deployed tanks and heavily armed personnel to Filling Polo, the venue of the recent planned protest, forcing the demonstrators to withdraw, quoting Samela.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.